give it a second to breathe here. We see we got people coming in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mile High Insiders. I am Nicholas Kendell, along with Luke. Luke, how you doing today? Mr. Luke Patterson. Training camp's around the corner. Football sounds like it's coming. Things are good. Things are looking pretty good.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Nick. It feels good to be back on a Saturday night. I've been joining you on Tuesdays, and we've been swapping back and forth throughout our busy summer schedules, but it feels good to be back at home on a Saturday with you. So, yeah, training camp, man, it's a week away. The NFL came out today, doubled down, said, yep, we're still planning on doing it. So that means full steam ahead for not only the Broncos, but for the Mile High Insiders podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good to hear. I actually it hasn't been the busiest summer for me yet, but it's about to get snowballing. So actually, I won't be joining you guys next Saturday. I'm going to be moving out of this apartment. So next time you see me, or I guess you'll see this apartment still Tuesday. But after that, it'll be a new location. So we'll deal with it as it goes. But guys, this is the Mile High Insiders podcast. Make sure you find us on Twitter at Luke Patterson LP and at Nick Kendell MHH. Make sure you subscribe to our show. That means a lot to us. Like, subscribe, share. That helps us a heck of a lot. And don't miss our great off-season content at milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated. Also know that this podcast has been sponsored by sponsored by Overtime Media.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
So let's get to the chat here before we even get into the comments. Just want to say hello to some people. Ernie's almost number one every single time. I love the mustache, Ernie. The wife hates it, but I'm trying over here. Ernie May is coming in. Denver Broncos are the greatest team. Appreciate that, Ernie. You're always coming in number one. Stony Neff, boom. I love it. Taylor Vamp, see you around it with that nice LSU logo there. Hello, Broncos country. Hello to you. We have Terry Randall coming in. Oh, I hit them all. Horse, chicken, padlock. So if you guys can decipher that, you please let me know. So Charlie Beagle's in here. We got James Campbell. Christy, how you doing? Cody,
what's
Porter,
up, Christy?
Duke Boynton. So, man, we got a good crowd in here for a Saturday. So let's get it going. Hello to everybody, and hopefully we'll get some more people coming in here pretty soon. But today's topic with training camp around the corner, I decided today, would be an interesting topic. Some players on the Broncos that are on the hot seat. Obviously, the roster, training camp, preseason is going to be different this season, but make no mistake, there's still players on this team that have had roles, or people think are going to have roles that things can change quickly. I mean, guys can emerge, somebody can get hurt, or guys can disappoint. So we're going to get into that. Luke and I each have 3 players that we believe are on the hot seat, whether from losing their role or making the team at all. So I guess we'll kick it off with you, Luke. Luke, who is your first player that you want to talk about that you believe is on the hot seat in regards to the Broncos 2020 team?
Sure. So the hottest thing being talked about the Denver Broncos right now is what? The offense. The national media, the local media, everybody is honing in on this offense that John Elway has built for quarterback Drew Lock. They say speed kills, and we're about to find out in training camp. But that being said, we've got a lot of speed and a lot of talent in that wide receiver room. So for me right now, the first player I got to look at is on the hot seat is Deshaun Hamilton. I think the drafting of KJ Hamler, ironically, because it seems like they're friends, right? If based on what KJ Hamler said, he's always looked at Deshaun Hamilton as a mentor, the Penn State connection, things like that. But Deshaun Hamilton has been a very lackluster pick. He's a 4th-round pick in 2018, I believe, was the 113th overall, and he hasn't really done anything, Nick. I mean, at 6'1", 206 pounds, I was thinking in his second year, last year, this is going to be it. Training camp, he's going to be coming out here, balling out of control, and he was anything but. Juwan Winfrey from CEU came out and was looking much better than Deshaun Hamilton. And for me, Deshaun Hamilton has just been so inconsistent. He's had 4 drops. There's a lack of explosion. He only started 2 games last year for the Denver Broncos. So when you're looking at this wide receiver heavy room with Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, in no particular order, by the way, and Tim Patrick, I don't think there leaves a lot of room for Deshaun Hamilton right now. So I look at the offense right now, and for me, he's the odd man sitting out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think, as not sexy as it sounds, I think the biggest factor that may come into play here will be the special teams role. And it comes down to Tim Patrick versus Deshaun Hamilton. Tim Patrick, heck of a gunner, really good at that, kickoff coverage, punt coverage as well. And Deshaun Hamilton, we haven't really seen that special teams ability. So if you're talking about that 4th, 5th wide receiver, the ability to play that third phase is make or break. So I think that's a good point for you. Deshaun Hamilton, I liked him coming out just because he was a good route runner. And after the Carlos Henderson botch, which I loved coming out, is essentially a running back playing wide receiver. Obviously, there was more going on there outside of the football abilities, talking about a little bit of heart and mental capacity there with Carlos Henderson. I kind of veered left to the more route runner guys. But then Deshaun Hamilton, you live and learn. He's the guy, you talked about it. When the offense, there's guys around him, he can fill an okay role, kind of a niche role where he's going to catch and fall over, but he brings really nothing down the field. He brings nothing really after the catch. So there's some offenses he'll land somewhere if the Broncos move on from it. Maybe they can even get a 5th round pick or something like the Duke Dawson kind of trade the Broncos had last year. But I think Deshaun Hamilton's definitely on the hot seat, and it'll be interesting to see how they divvy these players up. I mean, the key factor I think is what are they going to do with Jerry Jeudy? If Jerry Judy's going to play slot in 11 personnel, which is possible, then Deshaun Hamilton's really in trouble. Now, if Jerry Judy's more likely going to play the Z in 11 personnel, then that opens up Pandora's box. Then there's opportunities for him.
Right. Well, and then you look at Tim Patrick's role, and I would argue that Tim Patrick should be on this team in 2020 because he profiles very similarly to Cortland Sutton. He's a big-bodied wide receiver. He's not going to kill you with speed, but he knows how to get after you with that upper body strength, just like Cortland Sutton. So, knock on wood, there's an injury with your number one wide receiver, who is Cortland Sutton. Maybe you do some shifting. Jerry Jeudy slides over. You're able to insert Tim Patrick into the lineup and still have that big physical presence on the edge for a wide receiver. But you look at Deshaun Hamilton. I mean, I know he had 28 receptions for 297 yards, a touchdown. When I was looking at his stats, it was kind of weird. I was surprised. He got 19 first downs based off of receptions. And that seemed like a lot to me, especially for the Rich Scangarello offense. But I just feel like there's a mental block for Deshaun Hamilton. I like him too, Nick, especially coming out of college. He had really good use of that route tree. He's got quick feet. I think he's a super intelligent player, but I think that he's just got something in his head. It's a mental blocker right now. He doesn't have the confidence to play like he should. And it's almost like that old adage where they say, if you try too hard, you're just going to make a mistake. I feel like that's been the case with Deshaun Hamilton, and I'm just not sure he can overcome it.
Man, sorry, folks. I blacked out for a second. This is a collaboration over here. This one, multiple breweries. Oh, my God. So good. But anyway, let's bring it back to me now. My guy, first one on the offensive side of the ball. I've seen people already talk about both my offensive guys, so we'll just call the first one out I saw here. Duke coming in. Duke, you're great. We love you. Duke Boynton.
Thanks, Duke.
Jeff Hireman. That's the first guy that's on my mind as far as on the hot seat for the Broncos. There were rumors that the Broncos were shopping him as kind of a package deal, trying to move up in the draft and move around. So I'm not, Benjamin Albright or Cecil Lamey by any means, so I don't have that scoop. I can't confirm that. But I've heard that from multiple people that Hireman was being shopped. So Hireman, I think, is definitely on the hot seat. The Broncos have, outside of Noah Fant, it's just a list of names at the tight end position. They paid Hireman 2 off seasons ago. Hopefully they can trade him for a song and dance, maybe a late pick or a conditional pick. I mean, even if you get that can be valuable to move around at a camp body, at a special teams player. But Hireman's definitely on the hot seat. I think the writing was on the wall when they signed Nick Vannett.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this a little bit off the air, texting back and forth, because the tight end room is so thick and so deep, a lot like the wide receivers. I mean, there's just too many bodies in these rooms. So you got to start looking at who the odd men are going to be. And Jeff Hireman, he's always hurt. He's always hurt. So is Jake Butt. I really see no difference in the two. I mean, these Big Ten tight ends, specifically these two, have been injured and can't get on the field. And that's not saying that they're not good football players. That's not saying that there's anything wrong with them. They just have injuries they haven't been able to overcome. I don't know if it's bad luck or a genetic thing, or sometimes, hey, timing is everything, right? But yeah, I completely agree with you. Jeff Hireman, he's got to go. Jake Butt, he's got to go. You and I were talking a little bit about Austin Fort out of the University of Wyoming, who was an undrafted free agent signing last year for the Denver Broncos. And when I was at a training camp, it was really interesting. I liked him a lot. Got to see him at his local pro day that John Elway hosted with Coach Fangio. And he impressed everybody so much that him and Noah Fant were running 1s and 2s. So he eventually got hurt. I think it was in the Atlanta Falcons preseason Hall of Fame game. I don't know if they could stash him on the on the training camp practice squad or anything like that, man. We were talking about that a little bit just because you look at Alberto, right? And we're expecting big things out of Alberto. You look at Noah Fant, expecting big things out of Noah Fant. Nick Vannett wasn't just brought here for no reason. So the tight end room is very, very deep, and I'm done with injured tight ends that can't get on the field.
Absolutely. I've been chatting with a few draft people, and everybody's looking at offensive tackle for the Broncos in the draft, or maybe the defensive position. How much would Broncos country lose their mind if the Broncos went back for a tight end next year, round one? Let's say Albert Okwue-Benam's only A-OK. That's a joke, guys. Everyone drink. A lame joke, dad joke, everyone drink. But there's some really good tight ends that'll be in the first round next year. So that would be hilarious. I don't think they should do that. Obviously, you have to take the individual player, not the position. But, just Broncos country would lose their minds if the Broncos took a tight end. We got some supers coming in here. First off, Cody Potter. I heard the NFL is discussing the salary cap being dropped in 2021. That's true. Do you see low round / undrafted free agents making the team to gain experience to replace certain guys? That's an interesting question, Cody. I guess let's hear what Luke has to say first.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Cody. That's something I really haven't thought about, to be honest with you. I guess I'd have to sit back and really think about it. My first reaction would be, that makes a lot of sense. That would be a roll of the dice when you're working with younger players that aren't quite developed, who don't have the experience of some of these players that are under contract. But it's a lot like the Justin Simmons thing we've seen this past week. And you and I were talking about that. And, not to deviate from the question, but the cap and what's going on right now with the world and everything is being affected. So I would say there aren't any closed doors right now in the NFL, and I think everything is being discussed. I know for a fact that the NFL has 6 plans to roll out this season and are hoping they're getting it going. Yeah, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, Mr. LeBron James. So that's a really interesting question, Nick. I guess I'm a little dumbfounded by that, because that's a theory that it makes me excited, because I like undrafted free agents. You like undrafted free agents. What do you think?
I think it's possible, but with the expanded practice squads, maybe you don't need to see it as much. And also, I think if it comes down to it and the Broncos are in trouble cap-wise next year, cash-strapped, actually, I think the cash is more of an issue than the cap, but that's a totally different topic. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. Right. One of the reasons Justin Simmons might not be signed, the cash, not the cap. But I think the biggest thing in regards to 2021 potentially having a dropped cap, or let's say the money being spread out over multiple seasons to make up for that cap, I think it's not so much the undrafted free agents and the lower drafted guys. It's rather the vets the Broncos have and how easily they would be able to move on from some guys. AJ Boye, you can save like $14 million next year with 0 dead cap moving on from him.
Jarrell Casey.
Yep, exactly. So that's just, even if they're, let's say, B-level players this year, I'm not expecting all pros from either of them, but I'm looking for, solid starters, integral parts of the defense. That being said, they are getting older, and you can move on from them and cut a heap load of cash. So I think that's probably more of the direction my mind goes when thinking about if the Broncos have to play some salary cap gymnastics next offseason. It's those veteran contracts where you can move on from them. Granted, cultivating some young talent that you can have on contract for multiple seasons is good to move on from those guys. But with the expanded practice squad, I don't think it's as much an issue or a direction that they'll go. But you never know. If a guy earns it, But, in the NFL where it's so hard to win year to year, and let's say Vic Fangio and the Broncos go 6-10 this year and it's bad, Vic Fangio could be out of a job. So I don't know if they can really sacrifice talent today to kind of have the cheaper guys long term. He doesn't have that stability in that job right now.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
I agree. And, optics are everything. And the most important thing that someone told me very close to the team when I started out, he said, watch what they do, not what they say. Well, everything they're doing right now is suggesting that they're going to win. They're trying to win now. They're not trying to win later. They're trying to win in 2020. So that's a very exciting thing to philosophy to have. It should excite Broncos country, but you know what? That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and that doesn't mean it's going to work. That's not to say it can't work. You look at Patrick Mahomes. The guy's a freak, and he's got a Super Bowl ring, and how old is he? 24, 25 years old. Good Lord, he's a freak. those quarterbacks come around, I understand, once every 25 years and all that fun stuff. But John Elway has been able to work some magic. And when it comes to number 7, I really like that question. And that was a great, great question. I do want to steer us back a little bit towards some of these players we think are on the hot seat. And one player that I wanted to get after you with right away is your boy, DeMarcus Walker, because I can't do it. I can't do it, Nick. I can't do it. And I'm going to double down. I'm going to say DeMarcus Walker, man, he's like the Devontae Booker of the defensive end room. I don't know why he's there, and he's always around. He's the second-round pick from 2017 who really hasn't done anything, man. I know last year he had his 4 sacks. Good for him, 10 games, 1 start. But this guy's just kind of taking up space. And my boy Jeremiah Atachu, I feel a lot better with him on the end. This cat just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. I think he came out of Florida State. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I just can't get behind him, Nick. DeMarcus Walker, I want him to work out. I know he was an athletic freak coming out of the combine, minus the bench press issue and stuff like that. And there were some issues there, but I don't see it, Nick. I just don't see why Walker is on this team.
That was one of my least favorite picks the Broncos have made in the last few seasons. I had a visceral reaction when that pick came through because I thought
he was your boy. I thought we got after this before.
Draymond Jones.
Draymond Jones. My bad. Bad. Yeah, nope. Okay. See, I was taking a shot because I thought DeMarcus Walker was your boy, and I'm like, I'm going to come on here. I'm going to slay Nick and call him Devontae Booker, and he's going to get mad. But no, apparently you feel the same way.
Devontae Booker is better than DeMarcus Walker. Because Devontae Booker at least could bring some receiving ability and special teams. DeMarcus Walker, I know that he gets sacks, but I mean, he can't anchor at all. And all his sacks are coverage sacks. He does a good job of when everybody else does the dirty work, he can come in and clean some stuff up. And he does have a good swim move. I'll give him that. But I think it was the Florida State game against Ole Miss where Evan Ingram, the 230-pound tight end, drove him back one-on-one about 10 feet and then pancaked him. Done. I'm done with you. And then his name is Living Legend on Twitter. He blocked me on Twitter because I've been critical of that pick since it's happened.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not a DeMarcus Walker fan. Absolutely not. That's the pick probably in the last 4 or 5 years that has upset me the most. The only one I can think of that upset me as much was the Paxton Lynch pick.
Yeah, 23 games in 3 years as a second-round pick. What is going on? I just don't understand it. And yeah, say what you want, about John Elway liking to hang on to those premier draft picks to the bitter end. But man, the defensive line room's getting pretty stacked too, and they're setting a tone full of competition. We talked about Jarrell Casey a little bit too.
We heard Von Miller's going to be given the Mile High Salute more this year. Sayonara, DeMarcus Walker.
What a freak. If those of you that have not seen Von Miller's Twitter lately or just Google Von Miller, go look at him. If you can't think of the guy being any more freakishly athletic, built, shredded up, go look at this guy, man. I don't know what he's been doing, but he's been going through hell out there in California. I think he's where he trains, and the guy looks nasty. I mean, I'm pretty sure Vaughn's going to have to, shoulder step his way sideways to get through the front door. The guy's jacked, and he's looking nasty. I love it.
He looks like the goddamn juggernaut. He's
the Hulk. Yeah, he's like the Incredible Hulk, the Incredible Vaughn, man, and I'm ready for it. Let's see it, Vaughn. Let's see it.
Absolutely. So Terry Randall coming in back-to-back. We'll hit you up here, Terry. Nick's Beer Fund, I will drink for you. Oh, no, did I just lose it? No, there it is. Okay, cool. Sometimes the thing jumps for me, guys. And then use the Force, Luke. So I got a hashtag Nick's Beer Fund here real quick.
Always using the Force, Terry. Terry, I thought about you earlier. My daughter wanted to have a lightsaber war, so we definitely got that on in the garage. If you haven't been hit with those lightsabers, they're wicked. They get you in the knuckles all the time. And I'm a child, so I'm always going to play with my daughter's lightsabers. But we appreciate you so much, Terry. Without you guys and all the support of Mile High Huddle and the Mile High Insiders, we couldn't be doing what we're doing, folks. And Nick and I love football so much, and we can't get enough of it. We're texting all day about it. Nick will tell you, tweet at him, tweet at me, DM us. We want to hear from you guys, and it's great seeing your content come through on these live chats, these super chats. We appreciate you guys so much.
Absolutely. And speaking about appreciating, Joey Richards coming in with the super chat. Appreciate the hard work. Love the pod. Joey, you're too kind. We love you. Appreciate the heck out of you. So I guess it's my turn. I talked about Hireman here, DeMarcus Walker, after you slanderized me and said he was my boy.
I know. I thought it was him, Draymond Jones, man. I'm not even going to compare the two. I'm not even going to. I mean, it speaks for itself.
Yeah. But we saw somebody. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. Somebody talking about. Okay, well, somebody at me in the comment section, but the guy that I think's on the hot seat, and I wrote about it this week. Royce Freeman. Obviously, they bring in Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay's already here. What's Royce Freeman's role? I mean, he's a guy that really struggles to run between the tackles, which is weird for his physical profile. You know, he was pegged as this big, huge banger coming out of Oregon, but that spread offense at Oregon, they had really wide set offensive lines, and he didn't really have to use his vision so much because the holes were so obvious. So when he comes to the NFL, everything's faster. Guys are bigger, stronger. The holes are smaller. The holes disappear quicker. He doesn't have the zip to get there. He doesn't have the vision to get there. What does he do? He tries to kick everything outside. Royce Freeman, I'm sorry, buddy. You do not got the giddy up to kick everything outside. You're not that type of runner. So Royce Freeman, for me, what does he bring? He has to bring special teams ability or pass catching. Doesn't do either of those better than Melvin Gordon. So I think Royce Freeman might be out. I really do. I'm looking at Khalfani Muhammad. I'm looking at Levante Bellamy. Both those guys bring more explosiveness. And if you're using the run game in today's NFL, gosh darn, those guys better bring explosiveness. Royce Freeman, another pick that I did not like. I've had my heart torn out because I wanted Fred Warner so bad. And he's been incredible. One pick for the Broncos. I heard that the Broncos were literally on the phone with Fred Warner, and then John Lynch got on the other line one pick before the Broncos and took Fred Warner. But Royce Freeman, probably another guy. If I can help it, man, if I can even get a 7th-round pick for him, bless it. You know, send him my way. I'll take with one of those undrafted free agents.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you on this one because I liked the Royce Freeman pick initially. I really did. I was really excited to see what this young kid could do, but I don't know what happened. Philip Lindsay, maybe he happened because it felt like as soon as Philip Lindsay burst onto the scene that Royce Freeman really took a step back. And last year, Rich Gangarello was flexing him out as a wide receiver in certain sets. And I'm scratching my head thinking, well, I would really prefer Philip Lindsay to be in the slot or something else. I'm not sure why they're utilizing him this way. He scored 4 touchdowns last year. He caught 1, rushed for 3, I believe. He had an average of, 3.8 yards per rush, but the guy only started how many games? 0. Okay. So that's a big, big problem. And he's a big back, and this big back, man, it doesn't work in this offense. You got to be able to maneuver. And the most frustrating thing for me, and I equate Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay in the same sense. Royce Freeman runs like he should be Philip Lindsay's size. And Philip Lindsay runs like he's Royce Freeman's size. And it worries me for Phil because I don't need him to take all these hits. I know he's tough. I know he's going to pop up. I know he's going to get in the defender's face. And the fan in me loves that. And I'm like, yeah, Phil, go get him. Well, as an analyst, I'm kind of looking at it too. And I'm like, man, those hits are going to add up. You're getting a little bit older. You've just become a dad. Maybe it's time to, go to the ground a little bit more. I know it goes against his competitive mentality, but yeah, Royce Freeman, he's really, really phasing out for me. Levante Bellamy, you hit on it. Highest paid undrafted free agent. They gave him $25,000 and then a $35,000 guaranteed salary. So to me, that's telling me, he's got a big chance of making this team, and he's a smaller back, right, Nick, at 5'9", I think 192 pounds. So he's shifty, could be a possible returner. Royce Freeman not really involved in the special teams very much either. So if you can't contribute in your own position room, let alone special teams, you're probably on your way out, aka the hot seat.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon does everything Royce Freeman does, but like 10 times better. So I just can't see any reason to keep Freeman on the roster. And also, I hate plotting running backs. I'm already not a big fan of the running game.
Nick hates running backs. If you're a first-time tuner, I'm going to interrupt Nick right now and let you all know Nick hates running backs. He hates them so much.
I hate paying them, too.
And he hates paying them. So that being said, he loved the Melvin Gordon thing, right, Nick?
I've talked myself a little bit into it before because it's short-term. It's 2 years, so you're getting good years, and also you're not it's not like, you paid the Zeke contract or Todd Gurley. Oh, my God, the Rams are feeling that. They're going to be feeling that for a while. I mean, literally point to me a big running back contract that's worked out in the last 5 years. I can't find one.
It's absolutely crushed them. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, the old adage of they're a dime a dozen. I don't know if I quite agree with that anymore. But Royce Freeman, he would have worked in an old school NFL. I think maybe a little bit more pound. He's tough. I know that. And I know he's been. And he does this foot thing. I don't know how to describe it. I've seen it. Yeah, Dope. He does this little shuffle with his feet, and he just needs to be that north-south runner and, like C.J. Anderson style. Be that bowling ball. Get in there and bounce off those players. But, yeah, I completely agree. Royce Freeman, man, that running back room, good Lord. And can I just say this, too? I'm tired of the running backs in Denver acting like wide receivers. And what I mean by that is this Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon thing. I mean, you cannot go a week without one of those guys trying to say something that, best the other, but yet it's still halfway humble. It's like, all right, fellas, we're getting to camp next week. So I think Gary Kubiak, it was once him who said, we're fixing to find out. Done with the drama. Let's get it.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah. Absolutely. That being said, I do like my running backs like wide receivers if they can catch the damn ball. James Campbell coming in. Robert, DeMarcus Walker is an IDL. He's more of a 5-tech or a 3-technique in nickel situations, not really a 3-4 edge. So I just wanted to clarify that. I agree with that take as well. However, he doesn't really anchor very well. He's not, I don't know, DeMarcus Walker.
Too light.
Yeah, he plays with no base. Yep. So I'd rather have Ajim, Shelby Harris, Purcell, obviously Draymond Jones. I can't see it. Maybe even, Christian Covington. I mean, hell, he's definitely an option as well. So we'll see it there. My next guy here, actually, we got a super chat we should definitely get to. Sorry, guys. Buana did not come today, so we are running here live. Callahan could be a dark horse for the Broncos defense, but Sasquatch is a dark horse in the mystical creature realm. Is Callahan real? You know what? We will we'll believe it when we see it. Yeah, that's I think that so Callahan's contract is set up where it'd be not a great idea to move on from him this year. But after, I think it's a 3-year contract. Next year, there's like no more cap. So another guy that you could move on from if you had to create cap space because of the everything going on in the world right now and potential shrinking of the cap space. And then we got Pabby coming in here. Awesome pod, guys. Go Broncos. Pabby, I'm leaving the great state of Iowa soon. I know. Have a drink for me for the Hawkeye State there. You're probably in Iowa State country there, but I'll forgive you for that. Cody coming in. Is there any surprise cut you could see happening? The guys we're talking about right now are honestly all surprise cut candidates, I would say, so far. It's your turn.
What's one thing that we're all kind of finding in common with these guys? As I look at them and look at your list and look at my list, a lot of them are 2018 draft picks. Yeah. You got 2017 with DeMarcus Walker. So you're looking back at like some of those drafts that John's been, getting a lot of heat for and some that he's done well. That's just the nature of the draft. And, I miss on guys all the time. You miss on guys, but you know what? We hit on guys too. So to think that, because someone was wrong, and heck, I'm just going to say it, I was wrong this last week. NFL sources told me that Justin Simmons and the Broncos could have they were reaching a deal. They were getting close. They were making progress, so much so that he could have been one of the highest paid safeties in the league. Now, other reporters and other analysts have come out and said other things, and that's fine too. But I would just venture people to say, go look at James Palmer, look at Adam Schefter, look at some of the best in the business. They're wrong too. And we try to figure out and try to plot where things go. But I was absolutely wrong, and I was really bummed because I want Justin Simmons to stay here. This isn't an ego thing for me. I miss on guys all the time. I'll be on record of saying I was a Trevor Siemian guy. You had your Paxton Lynch guys and your Trevor Siemian guys. So Elway, I think he needs to get a lot more credit for a lot of the good that he's done in the draft than necessarily the bad, because the NFL draft is hard, Nick. You know it better than anybody else.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And you can look at the best teams in the league. They have plenty of misses. I mean, look at the Chiefs' entire draft when they drafted Patrick Mahomes. Just whiff after whiff that draft. Yep. But they hit Patrick Mahomes, so nobody gives two flying poops. When Carl and I were doing the draft recap podcast, we were kind of digging apart that Chiefs draft. And I said, Carl, if Patrick Mahomes hits, it doesn't matter. That's how important that pick is. That's how important that guy is. So I see a lot of comments coming on. Nick, you're not leaving Iowa, are you? Say it ain't so. I will not announce it yet, but the wife got accepted to a postdoc position. So we'll have the official announcement at some point on Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. But we do appreciate you guys. Ernie coming back in. Awesome work, Nick and Luke. Go Broncos, greatest team, greatest pod. We appreciate that.
Thank you
So
very much.
yeah, Ernie's. I mean, look, I'm gonna pull him back up. Look at that face. That mustache. I mean, looks like he's got a Broncos broom in the background.
That shirt, that's some old school Broncos. I love it when I see the old school stuff. And like one of my neighbors, my buddy Chris, he always tunes into these shows and stuff like that. So shout out to Chris. He was wearing an old AFC champion shirt from the other day, man, like when I was just a baby and the Broncos were getting blown out in Super Bowls. And I asked him, is that an original or is it one of those? He's like, no, man, it's the original. I break it out like once a year. And it's, man, if you've got some of that stuff, tweet it at us, man, because that nostalgic Broncos stuff, it's so cool. The Broncos have one of the richest histories in the NFL. I say it all the time. Broncos country, you guys are the most educated fan base in the NFL. For me, Nick, and I don't know about you, but when you said, hey, I want to talk about guys on the hot seat today, my first thing was, okay, I know that neither one of us want to have the same guys on because that makes for a really boring podcast. We want to mix it up. But then I also thought about who Broncos country would say. And you know what name I'm not seeing right now? Garrett Bowles. And I'm happy I'm not seeing that because that means that Broncos country has already accepted the fact that Garrett Bowles is probably going to be your day one starter at left tackle. Is he on the hot seat? No. People just don't like the way he plays, and the Broncos haven't been terribly thrilled with how he's played either. That's just the way it is. Juwan James, same way. Bryce Callahan, it's kind of the same sort of a deal. We're just kind of, our opinion doesn't necessarily always affect what they do over there in Dove Valley. So that's just a credit to Broncos country and knowing the depth of these players. When we're talking about a lot of these guys, they're not even starters, Nick. I mean, we haven't even really talked about a single starter yet. Of who's on the hot seat. So for Broncos country to go through the depth chart, know who these guys are, where they came from, and where their faults are, man, my hat's off to you guys. That is just so great. It makes me really, really pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting back here on target, I think it's your turn again, Luke. You've listed DeMarcus Walker so far. You've listed Deshaun Hamilton. Who is your third player on the hot seat for the Denver Broncos to make the roster or to have a role in 2020?
Hate to say it, it's the outlaw Josie Jewell because he's a linebacker I was really pumped that the Broncos got. Won a whole bunch of awards in college. Nick, I know you know all about him. He's one of your Iowa Hawkeyes. So, I don't take pleasure in this one because I thought he was one of those dark horses you'd find in the fourth round. I think it was a fourth round pick 109 in 2018. But last year, man, you're looking at 15 games, only 3 starts, 38 tackles, and what happened? Alexander Johnson happened. And I forget whether or not it was the Titans game or the Chargers game, but once Alexander Johnson came in, they didn't pull him out. And that's kind of where Josie Jewell's faults really, really started. He's a liability in the passing game. That's just where it's at. You can't coach speed. Everyone's saying that on the offense. Well, it applies to the defense too. And Josie Jewell, I think, is probably one of the toughest players on the team. He's a blue-collar, blue-chip guy that wants to mix it up. He's nasty in the run game. And again, I think he's one of those players for me that would have done really well in the old school 1990s NFL that you and I grew up in. And just when you can't cover tight ends, and I know he tries to use angles and use his intelligence, but the speed just isn't there. I'm sorry, Josie Jewell, but you're on the hot seat. And I know that linebacker's a really, really thin position right now for the Broncos, but they can always bring in new talent. I don't know if if the Broncos are quite sold on him.
I'll say the same thing I say every time when I talk about Josie Jewell. And this applies for a lot of positions too. But in the NFL, you can be small and you can be slow. But if you're slow and you're small, you're going to have a hard time. And Josie Jewell's got those T-Rex arms. He's not – the Alexander Johnson honestly might be a similar athletic profile to Josie Jewell. But that said, Alexander Johnson looks like a gosh darn 5 technique out there. He's a monster. Like, he's so huge, and that's huge in the red zone as well. I think he's the big reason the Broncos' red zone defense was so good. That length he has in the zone when things get compressed, I mean, you can't throw around him. Right. So Josie Jewell.
He can't cover people either. But you and I are both going to take Alexander Johnson over Josie Jewell right now because Alexander Johnson is faster than Josie Jewell. It's just, for me, it comes down to those simple things because I don't like saying this. I really like Josie Jewell. I like his grit and everything. But, man, he just can't keep up. And, bless him, it's the NFL. I'm sorry. It's not the try-hard league. It's the do-good league. And I hate to see a player like that who it's just timing, man. If you were just in a couple generations before now where it's a passing league and speed and stretching the field matters, Josie Jewell would have worked out. I hope I'm wrong, but you can't coach speed.
It's like Zach Thomas. I mean, he was great for the Dolphins in those years, but if you put him in today's NFL,
yeah, Hall of Famer, right? Is Zach in the Hall?
I think so, and thank God he played when he did. Because, I mean, it's the same with the Iowa Hawkeyes. They funneled the run game to him, and he did not miss many tackles in that regard. But you put on the tape again, I think it was the 2017 season, where the Hawkeyes played the Penn State Nittany Lions, and that was pretty much all you needed to know. Granted, it was against Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley makes a lot of people look silly, but how regularly he made Josie Jewell look silly, just the angles, it looked like Josie Jewell was running through molasses. So on top of that, he's not the best actually coming downhill, meeting guys at the hole. He's better when the run game is funneled to him. And in the NFL, when it's more spread today than ever, I don't see the playmaking ability. Again, you can be big, you can be slow, you can be small, but both together, I don't have a use for you.
The only way he makes the team for me is special teams. If you're special teams, because special teams have been a problem too. So Tom McMahon, you better fix it. I don't know if you're going to do that with a linebacker that's not fast. You might be able to do it with one that's got some grit, but if you can't make it even on the special teams, like we talked about a little earlier, let alone your positional room, it's sayonara.
I'll take athletic specimens on special teams. Granted, there is something to be said about the blue collar, guy who can come in, even if they're not the best player, if they're, doing everything right, that can have a professional effect on the locker room. It's having a good environment in there. Urban Meyer, if you listen to any of the Urban Meyer podcasts for Move the Sticks, he will talk a bunch about it. That's what Urban Meyer's doing nowadays. He's talking about building good cultures in the business realm. So that's important in a football team as well, obviously.
A little ironic too in the business realm, considering everything went on over at Ohio State, right? So
and Florida.
And Florida, right? So no, I completely agree, man. Urban Meyer, it'd be crazy to just talk football with that guy, to meet that guy. I mean, I'm throwing a little shade at him because I'm always jealous. My CU Buffs struggle really a lot here in Colorado. But yeah, Urban Meyer, one of the most successful coaches. But yeah, Nick, what do you think? Who else is on the hot seat when you're looking at offense or defense? Where are you going to go?
I got one more on defense, but I'm going to shift back to Urban Meyer real quick. He's not just a good coach, but he's a culture builder in there. Because, Utah, I think they beat Alabama when he was there. Then he went to Florida, made them a national championship title contender. And Ohio State was good before Urban got there, but his winning percentage there, I don't think he ever lost more than 2 games in a season. They were BCS every single year. So, man, heck of a coach. If you get a chance to listen to him talk, you'll become a much smarter football mind on that Move the Sticks podcast. Anyway, back to our discussion at hand here. My last guy here, actually, we are talking about a starter here, not a guy that I think is on the hot seat as it pertains to not making the roster, but I think his role is going to be challenged, and I think it should be challenged, and that is Shelby Harris. Now, I think Shelby Harris is a good player. They moved him off nose last year, which was not his spot, except in sub packages where he can just pin his ears back as a 1 technique. I think that's his best position, honestly. But that 5 technique as well, I just don't think it's his best spot. I think he doesn't have to offer the pass rush juice there, where a lot of his sacks last year, they came in bunches. And again, it's the same thing we talked about DeMarcus Walker, but I believe it was Brandon Thorne, who used to write or still writes for The Athletic, but he broke down every single Shelby Harris sack and attributed almost every single one of them to other people doing their job and Shelby Harris coming in and cleaning up. So Shelby Harris, he's an okay player. You can get by with him. You can't have great players at every single position, but I really think that Draymond Jones is going to push for him this season. And if that's going to be, whether that be in base package or just the overall snap percentage, I think Draymond Jones in that second step. Shelby Harris only got a 1-year deal, folks. I know a lot of people like to put a lot of value on him, but the NFL market had to say what they had to say about him. Did not get a deal. He came crawling back to the Broncos on a 1-year deal for, I don't have the numbers on top of me, but not very much. Yeah. So I think that he's somebody that, because of the sacks, he's been a guy that has gotten a little bit more hype. But the tape, when I watch it, I just don't see it, so to speak. So I think he's a guy that's definitely on the hot seat and as it pertains to his role and could be surpassed by players on the roster behind him.
Yeah, I agree. We've talked about it. He's not a nose guard, and I'll double down. He's not a starter. He's a rotational player, and I think he found that out in the free agent market, and that's why he had to come crawling back to the Broncos. I like Shelby. You like Shelby. Who doesn't like Shelby, right? He seems like a great guy. He's got that great smile that defensive linemen never have. Nicest guy in the world, on the field. I wish he'd be a little meaner, though. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna agree with you on the Draymond Jones thing. You know why? Because sacks matter more to me than pass deflections. And I know that Shelby Harris won him the Raiders game, right? Last year, the very last game of the Oakland Raiders.
Can I jump in real quick? You know what an offensive lineman would say if you are batting the ball down? It means you lost the pass rush rep. It means you had nothing else. You had no other move to do. All you could do is sit back and put your hands up. That means that the offensive lineman would tell you they won that rep.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, absolutely, because I asked Orlando Franklin that watching a game with him last year. You know, I think he made the all-decade team for the Broncos as their right tackle, and is currently a host on The Fan. But I asked him, I said, "Oh, what do you do? How do you defend that as an offensive lineman? How are you taught to coach it?" And he said, "We actually get graded as that's the only thing they could do. We punch them in the chest and try to knock them down. But hey, if they're going up like that, they're not going anywhere. They're only going up." So I would much rather have sacks. You also, for me, I have to wonder about work ethic just a little bit with Shelby Harris, because everybody's wondering about work ethic right now with all these players. What are you doing during this time off? We know what Von Miller's doing. We know what Philip Lindsay's doing. We know what Drew Lock's doing, because basically in 2020, if you didn't share your workout on Twitter, it never happened. Garrett Bowles looks like an absolute beast in his workout video. I hope he can play left tackle. Not sure. But I'm hoping Shelby Harris, he's been working. He seems like a great father, a good man in the community. I'm rooting for him, but I completely agree. You got cats, hungry cats like Mike Purcell, who's coming into a contract year, who's wanting to get paid. And you got to know that the young kid would like to stay here. He's a Colorado boy out of Highlands Ranch, went to the University of Wyoming. So by no means is Shelby Harris safe just because he's Shelby Harris.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, Shelby Harris did play nose last year to start, but really not his role.
He's not a Keem Hicks.
No, not at all. Or Eddie Goldman. I mean, that's right. the big nose tackle there for the Bears. But, I mean, obviously we talked about Draymond Jones seems like the obvious guy, but maybe McTelvin Najim can come in day one. Typically, a defensive lineman will take a little bit of time, but, I mean, I'm really curious to see what his role is going to be. Granted, my favorite position to scout is the interior defensive line, but I'm curious to see what they're going to do with him. Christian Covington, we talked about earlier. So it'll be interesting to see. First off, before anything else, we got to halt the podcast, pause everything. Pabby coming in here with a big super chat, showing some Iowa love. Go Broncos. And the number there for Noah Fant. Pabby, gosh, thank you so much. We really do appreciate that. That means a lot, obviously. And football season's been a little slow, so obviously everything's a little slow right now. Economic, who knows what's going on. So, gosh, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, no, very, very touching. And, you know, to get this podcast off of the ground is not easy. If anybody has done it, Nick's done it, I've done it. It's not easy to do. And it's not easy to capture an audience when there's a thick competitive market out there. And we've got a lot of great shows that we work with here on Mile High Huddle too. Like, that being said, I encourage everybody to go over and follow at Mile High Huddle. Go to milehighhuddle.com. You can grab one of those cool hats that Nick's got from his show with Carl building the Broncos. You've got Huddle Up, Dove Valley Deep Divers. I always mess that up when I say that because it's like a tongue twister, right? Dove Valley Deep Divers. But yeah, go over to at Mile High Huddle, get at us. We've always got great content. Chad is a 24/7 writer. You will always see stories being published from Chad. I've been on a little bit of a writing hiatus lately, so I will be getting back to the black and white ink as well. But yeah, without you guys, we can't do this, and we absolutely appreciate it. And man, Nick, we're a week away. We're a week away from training camp, and I know it's not going to be like it used to be, and I know that everything's been changed and stuff like that. And yeah, I had some sour grapes, and I don't think I'm going to be able to be out there this year and covering the team. But you know what? I don't care. If that means we're getting football back, then let's do it, Nick. I'm so pumped, man. We're close. We're so close. It's better than Christmas. I want football.
Absolutely. Let's keep that momentum going. Guys, subscribe, like, and share. It means a lot to us on YouTube if you can do that. We passed that 7,000 mark. Trying to get to that 10,000. It does us a lot of good. So if you can subscribe, that'd mean a heck of a lot. Like and share, even better. If you like my hat, the Building the Broncos hat here, this is Mile High Insiders. We'll get that down there right there. Mile High Insiders today, but I'm rocking the Building the Broncos hat because that's what I got. But go to huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on, as Chad would say. And again, this is Mile High Insiders.
And we've got swag coming out. Nick and I have both been bugging Chad about it. So just due to circumstances right now that are beyond anyone's control, things are on hold for a little bit, but we will be getting stuff out to you. And Super Chat users, we will be sending you guys some swag. Y'all deserve it. You guys are the best. Broncos country's the best. And that's not me being biased. That's me being honest, because I travel around other cities and evaluate talent and travel all over the year. Nick, you've been to the combine, you travel, you know, other colleges and everything too. You see other NFL fan bases, and they're not quite like Broncos country.
No, they are not. I live in Bears/Packers/Vikings country. So pretty much, and there are a few Chiefs fans, Bronco fans, Colts fans smattering here and there, but I mean, nothing beats the Broncos fans. Broncos country, again, not a place, but a state of mind. So, Terry Randall coming in. Excuse me, Terry, that Nick's Beer Fund coming back up there. Your thoughts on Covington's versatility on the defensive line? Again, you want that on the defensive line, especially in today's NFL where you're going to be playing so much sub-package. You need guys who can play multiple techniques. They're just going to have more value. So Covington, if you can find a niche there across multiple positions, that's good. Also want to throw a shout-out to a guy that maybe a little bit, I would say not a little bit, but very under the radar, Joel Heath. Went to Michigan State. I remember watching him play at Michigan State for the Spartans. Was a 7th-round pick for the Texans, and they brought him on as well. So that's another name to look out for there. Covington, obviously, they paid him more. He's probably the guy to look for. But Joel Heath is one that interests me. Man, dude's got vines for arms. I think he has 36-inch arm lengths. So he's an interesting player.
Yeah, I don't know much about Covington, to be honest with you. So I'm going to take your word for it on that one. But when you talk versatility on the offensive and defensive line, that means everything, especially now when, you know, you can only really carry how many offensive linemen do you really carry in a game? 6 at the most. You have one backup really just kind of hanging out, right? I mean, you don't dress a ton of offensive linemen, maybe 7 at the most. And those other 2, they better be able to play guard and tackle. One of them is probably going to be a guard that can play center too. And that's something that bye-bye Connor McGovern. It was fun while it lasted. You know, no shade thrown at Connor at all. I think he did the best that he could do. And he was put in a really tough position. Wishing him the best with the Jets. Another one of your Well, no, not an Iowa Hawkeye. He's a Missouri guy, right? He played with Drew Lock. That's what it was. So, yeah, no, I completely agree with you, man. It's all about versatility in today's NFL.
Yep. So the more that you can do it, unless you're really dominant at one thing. If you're really dominant at one spot, then you can get by. But typically, you got to wear multiple hats, especially in this Vic Fangio defense. More so in the coverage, but we'll just have a paint all on that one. Yep. Mailbag question coming in here from Duke. Let me see. But what made Dan Reeves choke in every single Super Bowl he coached in? For crying out loud, he went 0-3 in Denver and 0-1 against Atlanta, against Denver. Head scratcher. Dan Reeves, I mean, the Broncos got to the Super Bowl with him, which there's something to be said for that. I do not remember. I never watched or really evaluated those Super Bowls. If you guys have them, honestly, send them my way. Because I would, even though the Broncos got beat up, I'd watch them. I mean, heck, I'm football starved right now. But the one thing I can tell you from talking with people who are better Broncos historians than I am is that outside of John Elway, those Bronco teams really lacked depth and talent. So, and especially the AFC in general compared to the NFC. I mean, the NFC was just beating the poop out of the AFC. So maybe putting all that on Dan Reeves is a little bit unfair. But again, I can't speak to specifics, unfortunately. You'd have to ask somebody with a more tenured Bronco coverage than myself.
You can ask me because I'm all over it. And I would Duke, go back and listen to our last podcast too. We touched on it a little bit, focusing on Mike Shanahan getting into the Ring of Fame, and something that I talked a little bit about, something I thought was interesting because I'm right there with you. Dan Reeves, it didn't really quite work out in terms of the Super Bowls, but look at the development that him and John were able to work with. I don't think Dan Reeves should ever get all of the blame because I respect the hell out of the man. I mean, he's an outstanding football mind, but something that I always remember Dan Reeves for is that Atlanta Falcons football game, the Super Bowl, that the Falcons lost, and Dan Reeves graciously walked over to Mike Shanahan, his old offensive coordinator that he fired for insubordination because of relationship with John Elway and some things behind the scene there. And go dig into it, folks. There's a lot of information out there, and it's really, really interesting when you look at it. But it's chemistry. You look at the NFL, it's all about chemistry. What do the Chiefs have right now? You have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Chemistry. Andy Reid finally found his quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes walked into a great offensive mind, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, one of the greatest NFL tenured coaches. So the Dan Reeves thing, I think Dan Reeves is going to be tied with John Elway's legacy for losing Super Bowls, unfortunately, because Mike Shanahan definitely won them with John. But for me, to have, your probably most defeating moment losing the Super Bowl and to walk over and shake your former quarterback's hand and then your enemy almost, and Mike Shanahan, and wish him well. That speaks volumes of him as a man. In these times right now, we can all use a little bit more humility. And so I definitely like to reference that whenever I talk about Dan Reeves, because Nick, we could bash Dan Reeves all day.
Yeah. I mean, again, I like to speak on stuff that I have knowledge on. So I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole. I knew that there was a lot of tension between John Elway and Dan Reeves, and Mike Shanahan came in and seemed to be, worked pretty instantly. Granted, also the offensive scheme helped John Elway there at the tail end. But it is what it is. That's what happened. So we got another super chat coming in here from Cody Potter. So pumped for the 2020 season to start after this year we've had. God, you and me both, Cody. Got money on Denver bets this year. AFC West champs. Cody, let us know in the comment section. What are these bets? That'll be fun to talk about. And guys, we got about 10 minutes left. So if you got any questions for us or anything, hit us in the chat. So I guess we've still got some guys we could talk about here as far as hot seat. And one that I had, again, going back to the wide receiver, is Dyante Spencer. I know that he made a Pro Bowl as a returner this year. Granted, Pro Bowl's really lost a lot of its luster. Don't tell Mike Kliss. I went there.
Taking a shot at my boy Clissy. No, I hear you, man. No, I hear you. Dyante Spencer, we talked about it too. It's not enough there, man. There's not enough there. 0 touchdowns. I know he was a Pro Bowl alternate. I think his longest kickoff return was 60-something yards. His longest punt return was 40 yards. He averages 8 yards a punt return, I believe. There's not enough there, Nick. There really isn't. And you've got some smaller, fasty, shiftier guys on this team, a la KJ Hamler. We talked about Bellamy, right? Is that how you pronounce his name? Levante Bellamy. So we talked about him a little bit, these speedy, short, fast guys. There's also that young cat. I think it's Essery out of Wake Forest, the cornerback.
I don't think he's very fast, though. He's small, but he's not really got speed.
Well, I'm going to assume that you've got speed if you're 5'9", 175, but you're right. Some guys have it, some guys don't. So, yeah, you look at Dyante Spencer, and again, just to piggyback off of that last super chat, Cody, man, you're feeling so good. You're throwing some money down. I want to hear what you like. What's making you throw that money down? Where you got a lot of confidence, because Cody, I know you're working hard for this money. They're not just giving it out. Tell me what's making you so confident, because I like it. I really, really like that. That excites me, and I want you to win, man. I want you to win. I want you to get that money. Bring in all those Benjamins.
Absolutely. And this is an interesting one here from Darian P. I think the Broncos our odds, are better at winning the Super Bowl than winning the division this year. That's really interesting. I think that actually makes a lot of sense, because if you get in the playoffs, I mean, anything can happen. But when you're in the division with the reigning Super Bowl champs that did not lose many pieces, unfortunately, the Chiefs probably should have as high of returning Super Bowl odds as I can remember, just because literally, who did they lose? I know that they have issues at cornerback. I think Breland had a DUI or an assault or something. Gosh, I should know that. I should throw around like an assault like it's nothing. But he had something happen this offseason. So they got issues there on that Kansas City secondary specifically, or cornerback.
How did they sign Chris Jones, man? My head just about exploded when that happened. First, we got to talk about the Mahomes deal last week, and then I think it felt like days later they signed Chris Jones. So, Darian, I think that's great, man. And, Nick, you bring up a really good point. We've seen these wildcat runs. These wild card runs. The Baltimore Ravens, Denver, we're very familiar with that. Raheem Moore, and I'm never going to forgive you for that ever, even if there's a fire. It's just, man, these teams, the Packers went on a wild card run. I think that they ultimately beat the Steelers in Dallas. I think that was the first year that Jerry World was built. That's a really interesting take. I like it. Haven't really thought about that. The goal is ultimately the postseason. And yeah, you need to start out by winning your division, but you know what? These playoffs, more teams are going to be in. And you're going to be seeing some different runs. And I think you're going to see some upsets this next year just based off of the current situation of just abnormal life. And when that happens, the whole scale gets shifted. So who knows what's going to happen? The Broncos could very well be Super Bowl contenders without winning their division. I love it.
Yeah, it'll be tough to displace the Chiefs this year. I've always, looking at the Broncos structure the past couple of years, I've said 2021 is probably that year when the Super Bowl window, if everything goes right, opens up. So 2020, if they make the playoffs this year, I mean, you'll take whatever you can get at that point. Everything beyond that, gravy. But winning the division, winning the Super Bowl, I mean, I guess, it's the offseason still. If there's ever any time to have optimism and hope, it's right now. But
Yeah, absolutely. One last name I wanted to touch on, as I know we're wrapping it up, and you and I have talked about it a lot, and I'm coming around, man. ESPN put out an article talking about trading Isaac Yiadom for Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson, second-round cornerback, drafted out of Iowa by the Green Bay Packers. I think it was the same draft, actually, as Isaac Yiadom, so that would have been 2018. So I'm coming around to that. And one of the biggest reasons, and you and I talked about it texting earlier, I like the fact that he was Michael Ojemudia's predecessor. Chemistry matters in the defensive backfield, especially where there's so many questions right now. And we've talked about change of scenery sometimes. And I went on KOA and said, yeah, I think that they should go with Yiadom because it's sometimes better to, stick with what you got and what you know than what you don't know. But that being said, when you risk it, sometimes you hit gold. And a trade, I don't know what a trade would look like in the current climate, because physicals have to happen, I think, right? And all that kind of stuff. So I don't know what trades would look like, but I'm definitely coming around to the idea. I don't know how realistic it is, have not heard anything. But the more that I look at it, Isaac Yiadom hasn't produced.
Yeah, I think Yiadom special teams values there because he's a physical player. And I mean, that's honestly what made me love his tape at Boston College the most first.
He's a good tackler.
He's a good tackler. He's physical. He's got no issue sticking his nose in anything and getting off blocks. But when it comes to the coverage, I don't know about the hips. I think that in most schemes, I would not really be interested in Josh Jackson because how simple Iowa's scheme is. They keep it simple, stupid, a lot of cover two, a lot of bail technique, a lot of off coverage. But in this Vic Fangio scheme, you can kind of work around that. I mean, still with the 3x1s that you're going to see with match quarters, there will be times when you press. But I think that Jackson, especially the off-ball coverage, the man skills, the zone feel that he all has, I think that would make a lot of sense. So if the Broncos want to give up like a 5th-round pick for Josh Jackson in a 7th, kind of that same as that Duke Dawson trade, I mean, why not? Why not? I mean, the cornerback position is really an issue. Let's just call it as it is. At least in my mind, if there's any position outside offensive tackle, it's cornerback that scares me. So I'd take a shot there. Duke coming in again, bold prediction that I got to bounce. Duke, we got to bounce you too. McManus kicks a 69-yard field goal. Nice. And keep up the awesome work, bros. Thank you for everything you do. Duke, thank you so much for being a great contributor and a constant on here. It means a lot.
Superstar, super chat, superstar, Duke. Thank you so much. Love the name. Obviously Luke, Duke, it just works, right? So Love it, man. And some of your takes today, man, they remind me of Jim Rome, the original Jim Rome. I'm driving around with my dad as a kid listening, have a take, don't suck kind of a thing. Duke, you guys, the super chats, y'all have been coming in with some strong takes on this Saturday night. And we love it.
So Brian Greenfield asked this twice. Brian, we'd be jerks not to get to it. You're asking so nicely in the section here. I see all those question marks too. Who gets more receiving yards this year, Deshaun Hamilton or KJ Hamler? I think the safe bet would be Hamler just because he's a guarantee to make this roster, barring injury. For Hamilton, you don't even know if he's going to make the team. So, I mean, it could be either way, but I feel like safe money would be on Hamler.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Hamler. Last year under Rich Gangarello, I know it's a different offense. He was targeted, Deshaun Hamilton, 52 times, 28 receptions, 297 yards, and a touchdown. So, yeah, I'm going Hamler. There's a reason that he's the 2nd-round pick. He's going to be your slot wide receiver, and he's fixing to burn either some linebackers or hopefully get a safety to bite.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, we got to get out of here. It's already been an hour. Time flies when you're having fun. Great show today. Great comment section today. Really do appreciate you guys. Make sure if you like our content here, go to Twitter. Find us on Twitter. Follow Luke at Luke Patterson LP and follow myself at Nick Kendell MHH. And go to myhighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated, to check our latest articles out. Luke and I should be back on the scene here soon, although life's about to get a little crazy with me with a move coming on, new puppy, job searching going on, blah, blah, blah. But I'll see what I can do for you. Also, please, guys, like, subscribe, share on YouTube, drop a reaction of some sort on Facebook, and go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. All those things you do can really help us and help us continue to bring you these Denver Bronco deep dives each and every week. It's not just this show. It's the Huddle Up podcast. It's Dove Valley Deep Divers. It's Building the Broncos. So we really do appreciate that, guys. Make sure you follow all our stuff on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at MHI_football pod. Luke, wrapping up another episode day, another Saturday. You'll be without me next week. Don't cry too hard. I know you'll miss my gorgeous face, the very sad mustache coming in here. But, anything you want to leave the listeners before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I'm going to talk as much trash about Iowa as I can while Nick is gone. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to have Lance on. Lance is from Dove Valley Deep Divers. I'm never going to get that one in the first try. Lance is going to hop on with me. We've heard you. You guys have said mix up the shows a little bit. So as we take time off a little bit and navigate through daily life, we're going to be mixing these shows up, and appreciate you guys so much. So thank you, Broncos country. Y'all rock.
We got one last second here coming in from across the pond there. I believe that's the pound sign. Great pod tonight, Nick and Luke. Broncos World, press the like, use the Force Luke, Nick's Beer Fund. Nick's actually still got a little bit left. It was a tall boy today. So,
ooh, look at that last one, Nick. Summon Summit. So if y'all don't know, Nick will tell you. Go look at his Twitter. He's got a very gorgeous pup. We've got gorgeous lives that we need to be looking at and feel blessed. So thank you guys so much for joining us here on Mile High Insiders. Y'all have been great. He's Nick Kendell. I'm Luke Patterson, saying always believe in that Mile High magic.
Peace, guys. See you next time.